Welcome to fifth session. So till now, as a part of geography bridge course, we have seen several aspects related to physical geography. Next, we have seen few aspects related to economic geography. We are about to see some aspects related to human geography. Okay, so మనం డిస్కస్ చేసిన వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇష్యూస్ వీ హ్యావ్ డిస్కస్డ్, మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద ఇష్యూస్ ఆర్ లైక్ వీ హ్యావ్ briefly had some outline or out, so we just had an outline, not a complete explanation. So when we start the actual course, we will have complete explanation. Coming to, so can I board open chesukochu nenu? So coming to human geography. Human geography, what does human geography deal with? What does human geography deal with? Population. Okay. What else? Population. Population density. Okay. Sex ratio. What else? What sectors? Okay, primary, secondary and tertiary sector. Isn't it the subject domain of economic geography? Okay, anyway, we'll see. Coming to the population, yeah, one of the major aspect which is dealt in human geography is population and different criteria associated with population, how population is varying. Okay, in short, we study about or we discuss about demography. Demo ante, what is demography? Did you heard any time? Did you heard about demography? You know what is geography? What is geography? Study of. Okay, sare వదిలేసేయండి. Did you heard something called as democracy? Democracy and పేరు విన్నారా? I have seen a video where, as a part of the bridge course, you are given a detailed lecture about democracy. Maybe Kalyan sir discussed it. Okay, what is democracy? By see, crasy. Democracy means rule. Crasy is rule basically. Demo means people. People's rule. That's it. Demo. So what is demography? Okay. It is the subject or branch of study that deals with population. Okay, the scientific study of population and how population is varying. Just now, one of you mentioned about sex ratio. You can discuss about age group of people in a country. You can discuss about number of male, number of female. You can discuss about their literacy levels, literacy rate. You can discuss about their distribution. I mean to say, how many people are living or residing in rural areas and how many are in urban areas. Urban population anta, rural population anta. So likewise, you can have multiple details about the population. The subject which deals with it is called as demography. Okay, in human geography, you'll see demography, and you'll also see different kinds of settlement patterns. What are settlement patterns? What do you mean by settlement? Okay, different kind of settlement patterns. For example, tell me any metro city which is highly populated, densely populated. Kolkata. Okay. So are the settlements, or I mean to say, when settlement pattern, I mean the way in which the houses or the streets or the living spaces are organized. That is a settlement pattern. So are the settlement patterns same in a metropolitan city like Kolkata, and Are those settlement patterns same as that of the settlement patterns located in some Thar desert? No. What is the difference? Density of population and the resource availability. Okay, scarcity of resources, especially land availability. In an area like desert, Thar desert, or for example, if there is a rural area, there is rural West Bengal. Both Kolkata and some of the villages in West Bengal, both of them are located in same state, West Bengal. Kolkata is the capital city or a metro city, whereas the rural areas are located far away. So the settlement patterns will be different. So you'll also discuss about the settlement patterns in human geography. Okay, so we'll see about demography. I think in one of our previous classes we have seen, and I have asked you about the average age of Indians. What is the average age of Indian? 20. 20? I'm not asking about life expectancy. Okay. So the average age is somewhere around 29 to 30. So if you observe India, in India, usually if you take the entire population structure, so from 0 to 15, so some 58 or 60, so likewise somebody will be living up to 60, somebody 70, great people 80, ultra great people 90, so they'll be living on. So now if you observe something, this set of population or else up till here, this population are economically active population. They are not dependent on anybody. They can work for their own. They can do some economic activity. They can do some productive activity. This population is not dependent on others. Whereas the other chunk of the population, especially 0 to 15 years and more than 60, usually senior citizens. So these people are dependent. They can't actively involve in any kind of economic activity which produces income. Okay, maybe indirectly they might have lot of earnings. You might have you might have a question. For example, there is a relative of yours who worked very hard in some capacity as an officer, or he has set up a huge business entrepreneurship, like huge business enterprise. So now even after 60, he'll have whole lot of fixed income coming every month. Let us not take those examples. Those examples doesn't count. Only on an average we'll take. There might be an exceptionally talented child who has created some coding program at the age of 11 years. He created some gaming. He designed some game and he started earning in lakhs or in millions. Let us not take those examples. Also, you might have had some friend, or we'll take ourselves as an example. We are like 25, 30, 35, doing nothing, earning nothing, eating a lot. So let us not take those examples. Okay, in general, these are economically active population or independent. These are dependent. Okay, now why I had this discussion is just because if the independent population or economically active population, or the population which is contributing to direct income, whether in the form of some job or any business activity, so these people, such a kind of population or such a kind of country or such a kind of society actually progresses very fast economically, isn't it? So that is the advantage of India. What is the advantage of India? India has demographic dividend. There is something called as population pyramid. Okay, there is a concept called population pyramid. By looking at the population pyramid, we can clearly understand what kind of a nation or what kind of a society it is. Okay, for example, in the population pyramid, population pyramid is basically a graphical representation of entire population of one particular society or a country. Okay, population pyramid is graphical representation of population of one particular country or a society. So on the x-axis, you'll have the male as well as female. On the y-axis, you have the age. So this is your 0. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, likewise. So, if you divide the entire population in a particular country into these age groups in a population pyramid, with y-axis having the distribution of age and x-axis having distribution of gender. Okay, now all the advanced economies will be having more number of aged people. This will be the population pyramid of advanced economies, especially economies like Japan, European countries. What can you decode from such a population pyramid? What does such a population pyramid indicates? This is 10 years, this is 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50, 60, 70 years. What does this population pyramid indicate? What does it indicate? More old age people. Where will be the average age? Somewhere around here. Isn't it? Now, what will be the population pyramid of a country like India? What population pyramid does it have? Tell me. What will be the population pyramid of India looking like? More number of? Maximum number of people are at which age? 15 to 30. Isn't it? See, so the maximum number will be somewhere around here. So next, you have less amount of people in the old age. If you observe India has less amount of people in the old age compared to the productive age group, the working age group, the young and happening people. And you also have lesser number of children nowadays. Okay, as the country progresses, both the birth rate as well as the death rate decreases. Why the death rate decreases? If a country progresses or if a country advances? Because lots of medical facilities will be available. Healthcare will be available for everybody. Okay, life expectancy increases. A person who is supposed to die at 30, 40 or 50 in underdeveloped countries or not so developed countries will be provided with all kind of health facilities. They'll have better economic resources. They'll have better food, better living facilities. So likewise, all the facilities will make the death rate to come down. In the same way, when the country is more developed, if you observe India, within a country, where is the birth rate more? Is the birth rate more in the northern states or is it more in the southern states? Birth rate. What is birth rate? For example, now I took two groups of states in India. Okay, group A. northern states, the so-called states with not so good socio-economic indicators. We can say Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. These states historically had lesser socio-economic progress. You agree? Jharkhand. Southern states, Group B. For example, even in the north, there are states with huge amount of socio-economic indicators like per capita income. All these, like states like Gujarat, areas like Delhi, they have huge per capita income. I'm not talking about those states. In the south states, there is a group. Let us take a group of states from the southern states. For example, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, you can take Maharashtra. So, if you take these two groups of states, which group has on an average more birth rate? No? Why? Exactly. When the socio-economic indicators are very less, you mean to say the education or literacy rate is very less, the development is very less, reproductive rights of women is less. They usually consider more number of children or more population as a wealth, human wealth. Isn't it? More number of hands, more number of income will be generated. They think in that terms. Because an average girl will be married somewhere around 18 to 20. So as soon as they are married, they'll be having children and family. They'll start having kids one after the another. Usually, that is the thing. At least they'll have 2 to 3 kids. What is the case in the developed countries or developed societies or developed states where there is huge amount of socio-economic development? Especially, for example, which state in India has highest amount of literacy rate? So, on an average, if you see any Kerala household, on an average, there will be exceptions. Did you see any girl from Kerala who is very much educated, an above average household, having their girl child educated decently well? Did you see any of such household marrying of their daughter at a very young age of 18, 19 years? Do they have kids at very young age? No. They care about their education. They care about their career progression, development. You can observe the trend even in the Telugu states. They're not previously, for example, my grandmother had her first child even before 18, 16 years, 15 years. Now, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. They used to get married. Marrying after 80 was an odd thing. After 18 was an odd thing. Usually they used to get married around 18, 19, maximum 20. Now, if somebody is getting married around 19 or 20, just after their engineering or just after their graduation, like people see them very differently. They ask a fundamental question: doesn't you care about your career progression, development, whatever it is? Okay. So what I want to say is, I want to draw your attention to the fact that whenever there is higher socio-economic development, the birth rate also decreases. Because on an average, at max, a reproductive woman in her total lifetime, she will be producing lesser amount of children, and the socio-economic indicators are more. So that is the reason why, as the country progresses, not only death rate decreases, but also birth rate decreases. You understand the difference? So every country or every population undergoes, or their demography undergoes different stages of development. In the first stage of development, birth rate will be high, death rate will be high. For example, India in 1700s, 1800s, 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, huge amount of birth rate. Why? They'll have at least 7 children, 8 children, 9 children. Now, even now you can see. Why? Because there used to be different. The situation is not like as we are having it right now. Like, for example, if a newborn if you have any newborn in your household, you'll understand. They'll have some 21 to 25 kind of vaccines spread throughout their infantry, from the age of 1 month or 28 days to the age of 5 or 6 years. They'll have so many vaccines, 25, 26 vaccines, covering all possible diseases. Okay. Previously, when I was kid, I used to have only 4 or 5, 3 or 4 or 5 vaccines at max. What about our parents' generation? Our forefathers' generation? No vaccine at all. Only God saves people. Okay. So as we develop, we get more and more protected due to the advance of medical science. So there is lot of certainty. Previously, for example, in our grandmother's household, they had like 8 to 9 daughters and 4 sons. Out of those 4 sons, 2 sons were gone. One due to ill health, and the other person, he actually went for a swim, but he didn't come back. He was not that great swimmer. So right now, in the present generation, people are taking care of their children very well, and there are facilities to take care of the children. Previously, such kind of facilities 24% were not available. So that is the reason why birth rate used to be very high. Also, death rate used to be very high because the mortality is high. They used to get different kind of diseases. They were subjected to different kind of occupational hazards. Whenever they are doing their work in the farm, they used to be bitten by snakes. No antivenom in those days. So likewise, there used to be a lot of occupational hazards. So in stage 1, both the birth rate and death rate used to be very high. Stage 2, slowly they will see development in the second stage. Whenever there is development, birth rate immediately doesn't change, because birth rate does not change immediately, because birth rate is not direct result of development. For the birth rate to change, not just economy, but the society has to change. The thinking has to change. You understand? But death rate will immediately decrease. Why? Because as soon as we see the development, we'll see development in health sciences. We'll see development in different kind of facilities, living facilities. Occupational hazards will be less. So death rate will come down, but birth rate will not come down immediately. Okay, if you take a household, for example, that household belongs to very low financial capacity. They are very meager or very modest financial background that household is from. For example, consider some household from your, or some family from your known neighborhood. Immediately, in the next few months or next few weeks, they have hit some lottery, or they have made some fortune. Consider as an example. Can you see significant change in the way they talk and they think? No. It has to be 1 or 2 generations. They should be acquainted with the wealth. They should be acquainted with the elitist form of living at least for 1 or 2 generations. Then only their thought process changes. Okay. But the access to facilities is not like that. They'll be wearing very pompous kind of clothing the very next day. They'll be roaming in cars. They'll be having a very big house. That is a different thing. Okay. So likewise, death rate will be immediately decreased, but birth rate doesn't decrease immediately. So this was the case in India around 1940s, 50s and 60s. For example, you have more birth rate, death rate is slowly coming down. People used to be maximum, they used to live to 40 years and 50 years at max. Now slowly they started crossing 60s and they started attaining 70s. So now in the third stage, development went to the next level, 90s and 2000s. In 90s, and 2000s, the birth rate decreased. Right now we are at this stage. Birth rate decreased. Why decreased? Because the socio-economic indicators developed. Women started having reproductive rights. Women started having say whether they want the birth of a child or not. They had the decision making power. Previously, it was never so. Due to the family pressure or society pressure, they used to have kids. Okay, they did not have the decision making power. Okay, now birth rate and death rate decreased. Slowly, the population will get stabilized. So right now, India is in this stage. So that is the reason why our population pyramid is like that. If you take our population pyramid, as we have already seen, this is how our population pyramid looks like. See, there is a bulge in the middle. That means working age population is more. Economically active population are more. More number of people are independent. Less number of people are dependent. Who are dependent people? The children who can't work because of their inability to work. And the senior citizens are old age people who also again cannot work because of their physical incapacity. Okay, their body won't cooperate. There might be few examples where people work even after 65 or 70, but that is an exception. So that is why a superannuation or retirement age has been announced. Okay, there is a retirement age because after a certain period of time, body will go a lot of physiological changes. You won't have that much of strength and energy. You won't have that much of vigor, isn't it? So this is the scenario. Now, the demography having these kind of population breakdown or the demography having this kind of a population pyramid is said to have demographic dividend. Demographic dividend. What is demographic dividend? In a situation of demographic dividend, the demography or the population will have a notable advantageous situation. A notable advantageous situation where the dependents are very less compared to independents or economically active people or economically active population. I am repeating myself again. Demographic dividend is a situation or a one-time opportunity for a population or demography where the economically active population are more compared to dependents or economically inactive population. That is called a demographic dividend. So, tell me, does India have demographic dividend? India ki demographic dividend on that. Does India have demographic dividend? Okay. What should we do to utilize our demographic dividend? Demographic dividend is not a permanent opportunity. It will be available only for few decades. What happens after few decades? This population will be growing. So the population who are right now from 15 to 30 or 35 age, these people will be after 30 years, these people will be 65, these people will be 45. After 40 years, they will be 75, they will be 55, gone. So demographic dividend will be available only for 40 to 50 years or at max 60 years. That is a window of opportunity. It is a window of opportunity available only for few decades, 4 decades or 5 decades. So Once in a lifetime, we'll get this opportunity for every country. Okay. So, how to use this opportunity? How to use this opportunity? Right now, India is having huge amount of youth population. How to utilize youth to the maximum? Train them. First, provide them proper health, nutrition. After that, education. Along with education, proper skill development, employment, proper lifestyle. Okay. Apart from that, proper ethical culture. Okay. Work-life balance. So, if you have all these things, you can keep them to productive use. What if a country is having huge number of youth population and you don't have all these facilities? What happens? There will be a lot of instability. People will be indulging in different kind of riots, creating a lot of social instability, indulging in a lot of crime. See, an empty mind is a devil's workshop. So, if you keep youngsters and people who are brimming up with energy, if you keep them completely idle, having no work to do, they won't keep quiet. They'll do something. Either they'll be productive or they'll be counterproductive. Now the demographic dividend becomes demographic disaster. Okay, you'll have a lot of crime to solve. So keep them busy. Make them make money. Make them do good for themselves as well as the country and the society as a whole. Okay, so that is what government plans. So now did you understood why the government keeps on talking about jobs, educational opportunities, nutrition, health, all these things? Now I understood the reason. What should government do to leverage this demographic dividend? If you are not leveraging this demographic dividend, see, India could stay young only till 2048 or 2050. After that, India is no longer young. Even we will also be a macro Japan. Now, Japan's average age is some 63 or 64. A old country, commonly referred to. China's average is also somewhere around 38 or 39. It is also growing old. India is one of the youngest country. So, it won't stay young forever. It will also grow old. So, before we grow old, we should work. Not only should we work and create lot of economic opportunities or create lot of economic wealth, develop infrastructure, not only should we do that, we should also plan for the future. What is planning for the future? For example, in 30 years to come, in the next 30 years, what will be the population composition or the demographic structure or demographic pyramid of India? Which age group will be more in 2050 or 2060? 60 plus years. 60 plus year age group will be more in 2050 and 2060. So, what are the facilities that are required or essential in the India of 2060, in the future India? They should be having more facilities which cater to the old age healthcare, old age pension system. Cities and towns should be planned and made accessible to the elderly people. The technology should be made accessible to the elderly people. Okay, the planning should be like that. So in 2048 or 2050, if at all you need to develop a hospital, you need to build an advanced multi-specialty hospital, there should be a very large section catering to senior citizens. We call it gerontology. Specialized, like pediatrics is specialized with childcare. So gerontology is specialized with healthcare of senior citizens. Okay. So likewise you should plan. So that is the reason why you can see that most of the insurance companies or financial services companies are selling pension plans. They are gearing up to sell different kinds of advanced pension plans. The same multinational company or a financial service provided across different nations doesn't cater same products in all the countries. They look at the profile. They look at the profile of the country. In a country like Japan or in a country like China, which is about to become old, they'll sell pension plans. What? Yeah, they used to have one child policy. Now they are done away with that one child policy because the population is growing old. We never had any one child policy. India never had any one child policy. Okay. At one point of time, they had a thought of it, but no, they did not plan for it. Now, India is the most populous country in the world, thanks to COVID. COVID first wave, second wave, and its lockdown, people were very busy, and our population shot up to 146 crores, 147 crores. Okay, so likewise, we should be very cautious and very well planned about using our demographic dividend. If we are not planned enough, if we are not prepared enough, then you'll definitely face a disaster. Because this growing amount of unrest among the youth will cause a lot of instability in the society. There will be instability in the society, there will be instability in the political structure. So that is why now you can see all the political parties or all the leaders promising jobs. Did you see that? Why? They know, they are aware that people need jobs. Okay, so that is the reason. You understand? So, human geography essentially deals with demography. Also, human geography not only deals with this population breakdown within the demography. In demography, there are other details. For example, a while back somebody mentioned sex ratio. What is this sex ratio? Number of female per 1000 male. Which state is having more sex ratio? Kerala. Why? And obviously, what is the reason? Naturally, if we don't meddle with anything, like meddling in the sense not doing any sex selective abortions or medical termination of pregnancy, these kind of things, if we are not tampering with the nature, in general, the nature tends to keep the sex ratio slightly favorable to women. Okay, but we meddle up all the times, we mess it up all the times. Okay, so the adult sex ratio is somewhere around, what is the adult sex ratio of India? For AP, Andhra Pradesh? For Kerala, it is 1000 plus. For India, is it more than 1000 or less than 1000? 970 or 980? 986, I believe. 986 or 984. Okay, Andhra Pradesh is having almost 1000, 997, I believe. These are 2011 census, not the recent census. Census is usually done once in a decade. 2011 census has been done. After that, in 2021, again thanks to COVID, census was not done, but they'll do it. Okay, so as per the recent census, adult sex ratio is slightly tilted towards male, but it is slowly coming towards the female, especially in the southern states with better socio-economic indicators. Okay, now there is a problem that is going on. I'll tell you a government scheme. Tell me whether you have heard about it or not. Let me change this color. What is this? Beti Bachao, What is this? Okay. Did you heard about this scheme before me mentioning about this scheme? What is the major objective of this scheme or feature of this scheme? Why is it launched? For example, every scheme has some objective. Swachh Bharat, to maintain hygiene, cleanliness, health, etc. Okay. What is the objective of this scheme? To maintain child sex ratio. Adult sex ratio is a normal sex ratio, number of female per 1,000 male, normal sex ratio, adult sex ratio. Child sex ratio is number of female child per total number of male child from the age group 0 to 6. 0 to 6. Okay, child sex ratio. The child sex ratio is a big problem in India. As per 2011 census, there are certain states in India, states like Haryana, which are having their child sex ratio somewhere around 820, 815, 814. What is the problem there? Son meta preference. They'll prefer son. So there is an act in India, there is a legal statute in India. What is this? Preconception and prenatal diagnosis test. That is, for example, this is appearing very complex. I'll tell you very simply. Whenever you go to any gynecologist or obstetrics hospital, okay, will you ask the the doctor will be performing scanning. Okay, for almost all pregnant lady, whenever they go for this trimester checkup, they'll perform the scan. Will you dare to go and ask the gender of that baby or fetus with the doctor? Will you ask? Why? It is a crime. If they reveal it, it is a crime. That particular hospital or doctor will be booked. Okay. Why it is a crime? Because people perform sex selective abortions or gender specific, gender selective abortions. They are not preferring girl child, treating them as a social burden or a financial burden. So this was more prevalent in the north. Not that it is not present in the south. It is also very much present in the south. But the trend is more intense in the north. Not the entire northern belt, in few specific states. One such state is Haryana. Rajasthan, likewise. So, to address that thing, they brought this. So, they'll encourage the birth of girl child. They'll encourage. So, every now and then you'll see different kind of campaigns being run by the government. Especially, our Prime Minister will be promoting some campaigns. Recently, for our 15th of August, for our recent Independence Day, they asked us to click a selfie with Tiranga at every household. So previously, if you observe, Girl Child Day was celebrated with a selfie with girl child. They want to celebrate or they want to inculcate the culture of celebrating girl child. So that is why this scheme is launched. And there are also some other schemes or financial incentives being given. For example, there is this scheme called as Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. What is it about? If you are depositing some amount or if you are saving some amount in the name of your girl child, you will be given one of the highest interest rates, somewhere around 7.5 or 8%. The percentage is not exact, somewhere around that. Okay. So, what is the main intention? Why should not we be saving in the name of boy? Why only girl child? Because there is a visible trend of clear neglect of girl child in our society. So to counter that neglect, these kind of schemes, financial incentives, those kind of acts, so all these together will enable and bring this skewed child sex ratio to the normal. Okay, from 814 to right now it is slowly coming to 890 or 900. In the next 10 or 20 years it will come somewhere around 950, 970 or something like that. It will slowly arrive normalcy in next 2 decades. You understood the reason? So that is the subject matter of human geography. All these details related to population will be discussed, analyzed and used as policy inputs. Once you understand the demography properly, you understand the problems associated with demography, then you can frame the rules, laws and schemes accordingly. If you don't understand the population, you don't know what to do. Okay, only if I understand my entire class, I can deliver to the class. If I don't understand them, how can I cater them? Isn't it? So same is the case here. Only if you understand the population whom you are governing or administering, then you can cater to them. Understood? Yeah. Okay, just take a break of 10 minutes. We'll meet again. So we were discussing about child sex ratio. Likewise, in demography, there will be other specific problems, particular problems related to few particular communities. For example, did you ever hear about anemia? Anemia. What is anemia? Lack of? Okay. What happens when a person is anemic? What is the indicator? How do you know that he is anemic? Low hemoglobin levels, low blood levels. Okay. Now, in few particular tribal pockets of India, there is a special case of anemia called as sickle cell anemia. What is sickle cell anemia? Huh? Okay. Okay, what happens? Can we cure it? Why? Why? In general anemia, for example, if you have any kind of health survey, or if you have the demographic details of people having anemia, you can directly create a program, nutrition development program. So thereby, or supplementation program, nutrition supplementation program, you will give iron and folic acid capsules. You will give them good food, nutritious food, okay, which will supplement iron. So thereby you can cure anemia. But a specific case of anemia which is incurable, this is a congenital disease. The root cause lies in one's DNA. Okay, the red blood cells are not produced completely or properly. In general, the red blood cells will be circle shaped. In sickle cell anemia, it will be placed something like this. So it won't have sufficient amount of hemoglobin. Oxygen carrying capacity will be less. So overall physiological activity of the body decreases and growth and development decreases. Substandard growth and development happens. The person appears very lean and malnourished. Okay. So here, why I am telling you all these stories, in the demographic details, you need to have particulars. Doing normal kind of nutrition development programs or giving them iron and folic acid supplement won't solve these people's problem. Can it solve? No. You need to have some specific exercise for them. Okay, you need to have some particular alternative plan for these people. Okay, so likewise, in human geography, we'll deal with the demography and all its most vital details, important details, whether it is rural population versus urban population, whether it is male versus female, sex ratio, child sex ratio, health parameters, levels of literacy. For example, if you take Andhra Pradesh has very favorable sex ratio. It has very favorable health indicators when compared with all India level. It has very favorable sanitation conditions, all these things, but it lacks in education, literacy rate. When you compare with all India literacy rate, Andhra Pradesh literacy rate is 4 to 5 points lesser. So that is why government is focusing on education. Did you hear about the scheme Nadu Nedu? What does they do in that scheme? See, even state specific schemes are very important. You'll get questions in UPSC. In UPSC prelims, they can also ask, and they have also asked about state specific schemes. Okay, what does they do in Nadu Nedu? Infrastructure development in schools. Is it only government schools or is it also government colleges? I mean to say the junior colleges and polytechnic institutes, are those institutes included or not? In the phase 1 it was only schools, but now they also included these polytechnic colleges and polytechnic or ITI colleges and junior colleges too. Okay, they have 10 infrastructural components. Okay, you can name them: additional classrooms, green boards, not digital boards, green boards, electricity connections, RO plant, functional toilets, compound wall, school ground, all these things. Okay. Okay. So these kind of 10 kind of infrastructural components are there. So why are they doing all these things? Because from demography they got the details that education is lacking. They have to do something about education. They should increase the quality, they should increase the infrastructure. Then increasing the infrastructure. You understand? So human geography gives you lot of idea about the demography, how your population is behaving, how it is evolving, what are the characteristics of your population. Those are inputs for your policy decisions. How to grant budget to different sectors, wherever there is requirement or wherever there is lacking with respect to population and its characteristics. In those areas, the budget will be spent. Understand? Right. So, further. Yesterday, so now I am again changing or shifting the course towards physical geography again, not to bore you more and more with human geography. Okay, so yesterday we discussed about some apparent force which is experienced by moving objects on the surface of the earth. What is that? Coriolis force. What is the effect of Coriolis force? How does a body or a moving object deflects in the northern hemisphere? Towards its right. Towards the object's right. Not our right. The object's right. In the southern hemisphere? Towards its left. Why am I insisting its left or the object's left? Because there is every chance that you will get confused. When you are applying it after a few days or few weeks, you'll get the confusion. So, right in the first instance, when you are trying to learn it or memorize it in the proper form, so that there won't be any scope for confusion, isn't it? Now, so we will discuss atmospheric pressure, belts and winds. We will discuss in the sense, I'll make you say all the answers from whatever discussion we had from past few days. Okay. So, this is concept number 1, Coriolis force. By the way, what is this law? What is this law which says due to Coriolis force the object is deflected towards its right in the northern hemisphere and left in the southern hemisphere? There is one, Farrell's law, good. Farrell's law, good. So, concept number 1. Concept number 2. How is the direction of wind decided? Since we are discussing about winds, how is the direction of winds decided? Pressure. So, from which? High pressure to low pressure. Good. Nice. Okay. Now, what is this? This line in the middle, equator. What kind of pressure conditions does the area near the equator has usually? High or low? Why low? Because equator is constantly heated up, continuous heat. Whenever there is continuous heat or more temperature, there will be low pressure, because you remember this, all of you. So, you have low pressure in this area. So, this is a low pressure zone. Right. What happens in a low pressure region or a belt or a zone of low pressure? What happens to the wind movement? If this is low pressure, automatically, relatively, the surrounding is high pressure. Okay. So what happens to the wind? Simple. You need to think simply. You don't complicate it. Coriolis force, etc. I will add. You don't need to add. Just say what happens actually when there is a low pressure area. The wind tends to come towards the low pressure, isn't it? The wind will flow into the low pressure, towards that low pressure, because wind direction is always from high to low, from high to low, from high to low, in both the hemispheres. So the winds are converging or gathering or meeting at the equator. I am repeating myself, the winds are converging or meeting or gathering at the equator. This is how it is supposed to be. Now we have some devil in the detail. That is Coriolis force. Now apply that. How does it deflect? Okay. Now first you want to decide about the southern hemisphere. Okay. How will the wind deflect? Towards its, apply Farrell's law. Towards its left. Isn't it? The yellow lines indicate the original direction. Okay. The direction which is supposed to be. The purple lines indicates the actual direction, deflected direction. The direction after factoring in Coriolis force. Yellow line is the original direction. The purple line is the deflected direction after factoring in the Coriolis force. Up, do the same thing with the winds coming from the northern hemisphere. What happens? Towards it, that means this side. This side. What about others? This or this side? Okay, this side. Actually, they tend to deflect towards the right like this. Okay. They tend to deflect towards the left in the southern hemisphere. So, what is happening at the equator? Both the winds are converging at the equator. You understood? The movement of the direction of the winds. They are converging. They are appearing to be coming from which direction is this? This is east. This is the winds are appearing to be coming from which direction at the equator? East. Converging and coming towards us from the east. So that is why they are called as easterlies. Easterlies. They are also called as trade winds. After realizing or recognizing these winds, in the ancient times and medieval times, the trade got revolutionized. Okay, they understood that wind pattern of the world. When the wind pattern of the world is understood, the maritime trade or sea trade was mastered. People started traveling from one place to other place just by understanding the wind direction. In those days, like now, there are no diesel engines and steam engines in historic days. So, they are called as easterlies or trade winds. They are called as easterlies or the trade winds. Are you able to understand? So, now, after these easterlies and trade winds, I would like to add few more specific details, important details. Like, see, ITCZ. What is ITCZ? Intertropical Convergence Zone. What is this intertropical convergence zone? What is this intertropical convergence zone? This belt itself is called intertropical convergence zone. The name itself is derived from our discussion. Intertropical, between the two tropics. This is Tropic of Cancer, this is Tropic of Capricorn. Tropical regions these are. So intertropical, between the tropics. Convergence zone. What is converging? The winds are converging. We just discussed how the winds are converging. Zone. Intertropical convergence zone. ITCZ. You'll listen or you'll keep hearing this name of ITCZ every now and then in physical geography or in particular climatology. So this is the origin or the background for ITCZ. Okay, you don't need to mug up anything. Just understand. We came from complete basics. Did we mug up anything here? You don't need to mug up. Okay, you'll understand. You just need to understand those basics. For every concept, there will be 2 or 3 basics. Here, Coriolis force, the direction of the wind, temperature is inversely proportional to the pressure. That's it. Likewise, the same basics will be repeated and will arrive at, or we will deduce different concepts. Okay. Now, if somebody asks you what is ITCZ, can you explain them now? That's it. Now, taking a step further. Now, if we will go a bit advanced, slightly a step further. Shifting of ITCZ. Shifting of ITCZ. What is shifting of ITCZ? Why? Now I started complicating things slowly. Initially I said ITCZ is near the equator. Now I am saying ITCZ is shifting. What is this? Why will ITCZ shift? That means I am saying this low pressure zone is shifting. Is it possible for the low pressure zone to shift? Yes, it is highly possible. It is highly likely because the low pressure, how is it established? What is the reason for establishment of low pressure? Heat, high temperature. How did we arrive at high temperature? Because of sun. Sun's position is not constant. It has apparent movement. For example, a while ago you are trying to mention, in the summer, especially when the northern hemisphere countries has the summer, the sun is more closer to northern hemisphere. Or when the sun is more closer to northern hemisphere, all the countries in the north will have summer. Usually are March to May. But when the sun is more closer to the southern hemisphere, all the countries in the southern hemisphere, especially countries like Australia, they will have summer. So the sun's position is not constant. It is actually moving. It is apparently moving. The position of the sun is apparently moving. During one season, it is located like this. In the other season, it is somewhere located like this. So, even the ITCZ will tend to shift slightly upper and slightly lower with the apparent movement of the sun. So, ITCZ is not constant. ITCZ moves. ITCZ moves. And what is the factor or reason for the movement of ITCZ? Movement of sun. Apparent movement of sun's position is the reason or cause. Okay. Now I am going to link it up with Indian monsoon. And I will show you how ITCZ movement is closely linked to arrival of Indian monsoon. Okay. Did you remember Indian monsoon? How many types of monsoons will be there in India? What are they? Southwest, northeast. How is the southwest monsoon kicked in? Or how did the southwest monsoon arrive? High pressure. Why are the winds attracted towards Indian mainland? Okay. See, when it is summer, when it is summer, see, 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 when it is summer Where is India's position? Isn't it somewhere here? Huh? In northern hemisphere, the ITCZ itself is creating a low pressure zone here, isn't it? In summer, in the northern hemisphere, ITCZ itself is moving towards India. Usually ITCZ is below India, near the equator. In the northern hemisphere, it is moving. I mean, in the summer seasons, it is moving more towards the northern hemisphere, and it is coming towards India. So that is the reason why this ITCZ is nothing but low pressure zone. That is the reason why the winds will converge at ITCZ. The winds will try to move. Let me erase this. Let me simplify and let me erase this for you. Listen carefully. This is your equator. How is the wind movement? Like this, easterlies. They are converging from the east. Okay. Now, this is India, and because of the movement of ITCZ, low pressure is situated on Indian mainland, Indian subcontinent. Now, the winds are actually chasing towards low pressure. The winds are going and meeting. So, these winds coming from the southern hemisphere, they actually try to cross the equator like this. Once they cross the equator, due to Coriolis force, which direction does they turn? It's in the northern hemisphere. Which direction? This is how they turn. So the winds which are going like this will be turning all of a sudden almost more than 90 degrees towards Indian subcontinent. While doing this entire journey, the entire moisture in the Indian Ocean will be captured by these winds and thrown onto India. That is your southwest monsoon. Nairutu Ritu Pavanalu. Okay, that is your southwest monsoon. You understood now? Or you want me to explain it once again? Huh? Understood? So, did you get more clarity than before? As I said you, the subject is understood layer by layer. The more concepts you master, the more clarity you get in geography. It will be much more fun if you start unlocking more concepts. Okay? Yeah. Is it understood? Or anybody having doubt? Want me to explain again? Okay. So that is the story of ITCZ, and that is the relationship between ITCZ and Indian monsoon, and that is the reason behind monsoon, like reason behind formation of ITCZ, the Coriolis force, the concept of movement of wind from high to low pressure likewise. Okay. So since you know about Coriolis force, I'll also explain you about monsoon. Okay, monsoon and further complications in monsoon we'll deal later. Now I'll introduce you and simplify, just like how I simplified the subject with respect to monsoon, I'll simplify the concept behind formation of tropical cyclone. We Indians, every now and then we have cyclones, tropical cyclones. Recently we had a cyclone by name Biparjoy. Okay. Okay, India. This is your northern hemisphere. So India is situated in the northern hemisphere with Bay of Bengal on the east and Arabian Sea on the west. Formation of tropical cyclones. Usually on which side of India are more tropical cyclones observed? On the eastern side, Bay of Bengal. Okay. Now we'll try to decode the direction of the cyclones. What is the basic condition for the formation of a cyclone? Low pressure. We have discussed one more concept called as differential heating of land and water. Differential heating of land and water. What is it? Land gets heated up quickly and it will lose heat quickly. Water will get heated up very slowly and it will also lose the heat a bit slowly compared to the land. Okay. Now, in the late summer, like May or June, land will start losing heat, but the tropical waters will still have lot of heat. So the tropical ocean surfaces will be having more heat. So there is every chance for formation of a low pressure. Now since there is low pressure, what about the wind direction? There is a low pressure point in the Bay of Bengal. So wind tries to get attracted to it from all directions. But we forgot one thing. Coriolis force. Every time the devil will enter and create the details. Okay. Now, if you factor in the Coriolis force, how should be the wind direction like? Since this is northern hemisphere, tilt towards right, 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 right. Normally, it is supposed to be wind movement directly attracted towards the center. Now, every stream of wind, every branch of wind is creating a tangential force. Just like how you open up a bottle cap. So, in totality, it is creating a spiraling effect. Spiral. Isn't it? In which direction? Anti-clockwise or counter-clockwise. So, if you observe, all the cyclones in the northern hemisphere will be rotating anti-clockwise. Just go and observe the weather reports of all the cyclones in Bay of Bengal. For that matter, all the cyclones in northern hemisphere, they will only turn anti-clockwise. They won't turn clockwise. And as a corollary, all the cyclones in southern hemisphere will turn clockwise in this direction. They won't turn anti-clockwise. Okay. So, cyclones are anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. You understood? There is some other condition. Till now you discussed about cyclone. There is some other condition called as anticyclone. What is anticyclone? What is anticyclone? In cyclone you have low pressure center. In anticyclone you will have high pressure center. Winds will go outwards. Again same Coriolis force. Okay. For the time being, leave it. We are more interested about cyclones. Anticyclones doesn't bring anything. But cyclones bring a lot of rains, destruction, damage. It's basically a natural hazard. If not managed properly, it becomes a disaster. What is the difference between hazard and a disaster? Okay. No, not necessarily. What is the difference between a hazard and a disaster? Okay. See, you can't avoid natural hazards. But what about disasters? Can we avoid? Hmm? You can manage it. Good. How? See, cyclone is a hazard. If you are not prepared for the cyclone, if you are not prepared to address or take on that cyclone, if you are not doing proper preparatory steps, relief and rescue, shelter homes, necessary protection, it becomes a disaster. Hazard is a potential thing which is supposed to happen. It's a natural thing or a man-made thing. Hazard. If you are not prepared for that hazard, it is a disaster. For example, Andhra Pradesh witnessed severe cyclones since 1700s, 1800s. Even before that, we had cyclones. But in the recorded administrative history, we are having severe cyclones at least from 1700s or 1800s. For example, 1977-78, we had a huge cyclone. Divisima Uppana antaru kada. One such thing. Okay. Like thousands of people were dead. Okay. Almost, if not the same intensity, a bit less. We had a cyclone in 2000. Hudhud. When did it come? 15. 14. 14. How many people were dead? Lakhs. Few. Single digit. Lakhs were not dead. Lakhs of people dying is not a small thing. Okay. లక్షల మంది చచ్చిపోతే అది మామూలు విషయం కాదు. దట్స్ ఎ బిగ్ న్యూస్. ఓకే. వెరీ ఫ్యూ ఇండివిజువల్స్ వర్ డెడ్. What is the difference? Better managed hazards don't lead to disaster. Hazard plus no sufficient preparation will cause disaster. For example, you'll be having an exam. You have a Viva. Engineering background students are there, right? You have a Viva, internal Viva or evaluation. Viva is a hazard. It is supposed to happen. It will happen. If you are not prepared enough, it becomes a disaster. Okay? You might fail, you might get very less marks. If you are prepared, you'll just tide over the hazard. Okay? You'll just get better over the hazard. If you are completely unprepared, or your external, or your, for that matter, your internal faculty is hell bent on failing you, it becomes a disaster. Isn't it? So that is the essential difference between a hazard and disaster. Hazard you can't avoid. Hazard is part of our life. Hazard is part of, Viva is part of engineering. Whether it remains at the level of hazard or disaster depends on your preparedness or depends on your action. How you acted in the entire semester or in the entire college life decides your Viva either becoming a, remaining as a hazard or it becoming a disaster. Okay. Yeah. So we'll stop at this. Hope you understand how the tropical cyclones are born. So after coming inside, these winds, all these winds will be spiraling like this. These spiraling winds tends to go up. When they go up, because these are winds at higher temperature. Winds at higher temperature are always lighter. They go up. They take lot of water vapor along with them, moisture along with them, and they create cumulonimbus clouds, which carry huge rainfall. That is the reason why cyclone has rainfall. Okay. Point number 1. Point number 2. Last time we discussed why is the eastern coast having more number of cyclones and the western coast of India have less number of cyclones compared to eastern coast. Do you know the fact? The eastern coast of India or the Bay of Bengal have more number of cyclones. how many times did you witness the eastern coast or the states along the eastern coast, whether it is West Bengal, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh or Tamil Nadu having cyclone, and the states along the western coast, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat having cyclones, they will also have cyclones once in a while. But these 4 lucky states or these 5 lucky states will have cyclone every year almost. Why is it so? Why is Bay of Bengal is so fortunate to have more number of depressions and cyclones, and why is Arabian Sea comparatively better when compared with Bay of Bengal? Why is it having lesser number of cyclones? Exactly. Why is Bay of Bengal warmer? Okay. It is a confined water body, Bay of Bengal, if you observe the map. Confined water body. Water movement is not free. If you are confining water to one particular area, it is as good as holding water in a vessel, which is open only, like closed 3 sides and open only one side. Restricted. So restricted water, easy to heat, easy to get heated. When the water is completely open to the sea, whatever the water that is getting heated up is a part of larger water body. They won't attain that much of temperature easily. So Arabian Sea is open to the high seas. Bay of Bengal is confined. A bay area. So that is the reason why average temperature is more. And also, just give me a comment or tell me about different kinds of rivers. Most of the rivers are high volume flow rivers are going to Bay of Bengal. Ganga river system, Brahmaputra river system, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, Penna, everything is going to Bay of Bengal. When it comes to Arabian Sea, only Narmada, Tapti, Mahi, Sabarmati, all are what? Rivers having lesser number of rivers having very lesser volume of water. Okay? Because these many rivers are coming, it will add lot of salinity and nutrients. So when there is lot of salinity and nutrients, automatically surface temperature increases. Okay, so these are the reasons why Bay of Bengal has more number of cyclones compared to Arabians. Understood? Yeah. So, any doubts? Not just regarding today's session or regarding today's topics. In general, do you have any doubts from this past 5 sessions, like today's session and the previous 4 sessions? Are you able to understand? Advaina? Okay. So, in the main course, you will be having much more interesting topics. Okay? Yeah. So, we'll meet soon.